Hello, Serious Survivor here, and today we're going to talk about the government shutdown, the impact it's already had, the effects we're currently experiencing, and things we could expect shortly or very near in the future if the government doesn't come to some type of agreement and if this problem isn't brought to an end. First, we're going to look at the government agencies and organizations that are impacted directly by the shutdown. And then we're going to look at the overall effect of if one of these organizations completely fails and the likelihood that multiple organizations will have to end all of their government assistance nearly simultaneously. This could produce a cascade of very bad effects that would impact everyone in the United States, not just those who are on any type of assistance, but those who live in the United States. So let's check out the details of this and the effects, and then we're going to talk about what we can do to prepare for this. So let's get started. This government shutdown began on December 22nd of 2018 and is currently still underway. And if we count the 22nd as the first day, then that puts us in the 38th day of the government shutdown at this moment. And this is going to have a tremendous impact on our society. We're going to go through the list of the agencies and operations that are affected here briefly, and then we're going to touch on some of these agencies and talk about the ones that will have the most significant impact on society in general. There are over 30 major government agencies that are currently shut down or have furloughed at least 50% of their employees, while their other remaining employees are either not being paid or being paid through reserve funds from that particular department. And this is a major factor on day-to-day operations in the United States in general. The ones that I want to talk about here, of course we can't talk about them all, but the ones I want to talk about here to begin with are the ones that I think will cause the most problems at the onset of this financial meltdown, if we will. And these being the public housing departments, the Department of Health and Human Resources or Services, the Social Security Administration, and the Medicaid. And these four factors alone, combined with another factor that I also want to mention, and that's law enforcement, intelligence services, and TSA. Over 90% of the TSA agents are currently not being paid. And that's when the flights stop taking off, that this is going to put a lot of travel in the United States at a standstill. Millions of people per day travel in airplanes across the United States. And if this travel is restricted in any shape or form, then this is going to cause a major disruption in the economic system of the United States. This is going to cause our economy to fall rapidly. So this is one major factor that we may not have looked at before, but this is a factor that will have a dramatic impact, along with law enforcement. Now, most of our law enforcement and our military and our intelligence services, our FBI, CIA, things like that, most of these people are pretty dedicated to their jobs. And I think a lot of these are going to stay on the job and hopefully have an optimistic look like I do at things. I really hope we pull out of this. But most of them will stay on the job. But what if they don't? If the police stop showing up to work because they haven't been paid for a couple of months, then this is going to lead to a true without rule of law society, or either the completely other end of the spectrum, and that's the martial law. Because if it does get too wild in the streets, then the government will most likely lock down the big cities. Now, the other departments we were talking about, the Department of Health and Human Services, what we're going to see is that the funding for food stamps has already run out. It runs out in February, I should say. March, there will not be any food stamps or welfare. The funding for Section 8 housing ran out in December. Some was approved in January. And for those who aren't familiar with Section 8 housing is where the government provides either free housing, apartments, mobile homes, small houses, things like that, small government assistance homes for people that can't afford a home. And in a lot of these cases, the tenants are given, free rent at these places, but at a lot of them, then the tenants have to pay as much as 30% of their salary, and the government picks up the rest. Now, the funding for a large part of the urban areas of this program has already ran out. And so far, the property owners have been basically dipping into their own reserve funds, trying to hold the program up for a little bit because nobody wants to evict millions of people across the United States. But another month of this, and people won't have much of a choice. We'll start seeing people being evicted from their homes about the same time we see the food stamps cut off. And at that point, the food banks and charitable organizations can only hold out for so long because this is going to impact all of America, not just the people that are on government assistance. It's going to impact everyone that walks the streets of this great nation. And this is a problem that needs to be sorted out, and it needs to be sorted out soon. Because when the food stamps do run out, there's a couple of other events that coincide along with that, and that's the fact that the SSI funding is also dried up. So a lot of things are going to coincide, and then another side of it that may be overlooked, and that's the Medicaid and the Medicare, and that's the health coverage. The people who are on Medicaid and Medicare and they're getting prescription medication or they're getting medical treatment in which they have to be seen on a regular basis, when these services are stopped, then a lot of people are simply going to die from lack of medication and from lack of treatment. And then those who are going hungry, those who are struggling because their food stamps got cut off, then they're also going to be suffering malnutrition and other diseases and sicknesses that they're not going to be able to get treatment for. So this is like a steamroll effect. It's an exponential factor. We really haven't seen it yet, but the Section 8 has already dried up. And by next month, a lot of people are going to start getting evicted unless it's fixed. The food stamps next month is the last month of funding for food stamps. I think in some places it's already turned off. Then you put on top of that the Social Security, the SSI, and the Medicaid. And we're going to have millions, tens of millions of people who have nowhere to live, no means of supporting themselves. And what's this going to do to the economy overall? It's going to do a lot, because when you take the money from people, who are on assistance, whether or not they were on government assistance, they are still taking the money that they receive and putting it back into the economy. So these billions that are not being paid out in these programs is also billions of dollars that's not coming back into the economy to support other people who are working other jobs. And this will have an impact that we just can't really accurately predict at this moment. Recessions and depressions have started from much less before. So the need for preparation and the need to have everything that we might need to take care of our family, our friends, our loved ones, the need has never been greater than right now. We do face a situation that most likely will be resolved, but if it's not, do you want to be the one that's not ready? Because this is could very well be turning into one of the types of events that preppers often talk about and actually prep for. And that's the economic disaster, the economic meltdown, financial crisis, whichever you want to call it. It's all the same thing. And that's basically when there's no money to go around for the people living in the country. So when the money stops flowing, the trucks stop delivering goods, gasoline prices start to go up, the food prices start to go up. And what we may find ourselves in is a type of dystopian society in the very near future, one that's digressed instead of progress. And this is going to be a difficult time. So we have to take into account that this is going to impact everyone. Even if I'm not personally on government assistance of any type, those checks stopping will not affect me personally, but they will affect people around me. Over 20% of the people in the United States are on food stamps. Almost 20% of people in the United States are on food stamps and another government assistance program, and almost 10% of the people in the United States are on 3 or more government assistance programs. So if we just go with that number, 10% on 3 different programs, then you can pretty much say that the majority of their income does come from government assistance programs. That's 1 out of 10. Take a look around. 1 out of every 10 people that you pass on the street will be severely impacted by this. Even though you may be in a small town like I am, and it may seem far away when we talk about stuff like this and thinking, I don't see it here. Everything's going like normal. When those type of things happen, when all of the programs stop, when all of the government money stops, then there are a lot of people that do depend on that we don't even realize it, and it's going to start to show then. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that and about some of the things that we could face in this type of situation, being that this is a realistic event. It's an event that's already in action, if you will. And if things don't change, if the government doesn't come around and make some kind of arrangements, then a lot of people will be out of work. I know we talked about the ones who would be losing the checks, but not just that fact. The folks that are out of work and don't receive their checks are going to be in the same situation, not being able to make their house payments, their car payments, or anything like that. So make sure to check out the next video, part 2 to this one. We're going to talk about how to survive this event and things we can do to prepare for it right now, things we can do to make sure that we've got the best chance possible. So thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And for now, Serious Survivor, out.